It was the 1st of September 2008, my first day at the Leiden University. I walked into the Faculty of Social and Behavioral Sciences. Young, eyes wide open, ready, excited, eager to learn. Honestly, who knows what that first day was like? It's almost 10 years ago, and my memory is a selective instrument. The point is that that was the day I became part of the Leiden University community. First as a student, and after graduating as a study advisor. Today, I want to talk to this community, which over the years has become my second home. An environment in which I spend a lot of my time, and where I feel connected to the people around me. I care about their well-being, which has inspired me to stand here before you today. To introduce my topic, I want to start by asking you a couple of questions. Let's do one practice round. Can everybody please raise their hand? Thank you, you guys are good at this. So now for my actual questions, please don't feel shy. Can you please raise your hand when you feel like your life is often controlled by your agenda? Thank you. Can you raise your hand when you've reached the point that you need a to-do list for your to-do lists? It's recognizable, right? And can you raise your hand when you feel guilty when you've done nothing for an entire day? And now for my final question, which is a little bit more personal, so only if you feel comfortable enough. Can you raise your hand when you feel like you're struggling with these kind of pressures? Thank you for sharing with me and the rest of the audience. That was very courageous. And as you just witnessed, many of us experience similar feelings of being under pressure. And we are by no means unique. Because throughout society, people experience high levels of stress. And this often results in burnouts and depressions. And often this is a very lonely struggle. And today I want to argue that the solution is to face this as a community. But before getting there, I want to look at some of the things that you can do as an individual. Because the obvious answer to stressing out is doing less, right? You can do so by not checking your work email or your university mail when you're not at work or the university. Or you can do so by saying no more often. You can also do so by engaging in more relaxing activities, like for example yoga or mindfulness. Those work for me as well. And when everything gets out of control, luckily, we have amazing doctors, therapists, and coaches that can help you get everything back on track. My problem with all of this, however, is that it's just treating the symptoms, when I believe that the cause of all this stress is in fact much deeper. Because when such a high percentage of all of us is stressed out a lot, it has become part of the very structures of our society. We reproduce it on a daily basis and making it part of our culture. And culture is created in all social interactions. But this means we can also change it. So if we want to start changing this culture, luckily we have to change society, and as a university, that's the core business of what we do. So us as a university community, we can experiment to find new answers. But we all know that when we experiment, we also make mistakes, right? And those mistakes push us further to finding new solutions. The dilemma nowadays is that mistakes has become a dirty word. And it's affecting our research and education as well. So before we can start our experimentation process, we have to make sure we recreate this room for creativity. Because right now we are expecting everyone and everything to be efficient and effective. So there's not really any room for failure anymore. And to start, we need to look at this culture of stress, and we need to see where the root of this problem lies. And I believe it has to do with marketization processes that have gone overboard. In the past 20 years, within higher education, there has been a policy agenda of new public management. And this was aimed at modernizing public service organizations. It has led to a more business-like system of higher education, and our universities had to become more efficient and effective, produce more outcome with fewer financial means. And this had consequences throughout our organization. For example, if we look at the amount of students, which has grown with over 50% in the past 20 years. But universities received 25% less funding per student. So we had to make sure that we were keeping our scientific standards. And we are doing so by constantly, quantitatively analyzing everything. We all know the National Student Survey, the many cycles of inspections, and the many surveys that we're asked to fill out. And having to do so has also increased bureaucratic demands, since everything has to be documented. And this has also increased the work pressure on our support staff. And if we look at research, one of the core businesses of our university, competition over research grants has increased drastically as well. Today, only about 5% of all applications are being granted. So, scientific staff here in the audience, you must know how much time and effort this costs you, and a lot of it outside of the hours for which you get paid. And then, when it comes to students, you guys are under pressure to finish your education more quickly. We urge you to prepare for the job market and to engage in extracurricular events. And all of this without receiving any student grants anymore. So the financial pressure has become very big as well. So all of these consequences illustrate a culture of competition and social pressure. And the irony here is that all this time-money pressure is now causing the opposite effect. Instead of people becoming more efficient and effective, we are now kind of running around in circles, and many of us are getting sick. We are stuck in a downward spiral in which we are creating more of the same problem. And instead of getting more, we are now getting even less. So I want to encourage this community to take some steps back collectively, so we can sort of re-engage with our own core values as a university community. And I want to encourage all boards and committees to put community resilience on their agendas. Because this way, we can go back to what we actually stand for. And I want them to do so by reflecting over the three main elements of our culture: the what, the who, and the where. So let's start with the what. What do we expect of each other within this community? For example, are workloads realistic? Or is the fact that many of us feel structurally overworked a sign that we've got our numbers wrong? And should we even be quantifying everything, or other things more important, like healthy and responsible citizenship, for example? Which brings me to the second element, the who. Who are the members of our community? Do we still see them as human beings with strengths and challenges, with hopes for the future and with something unique to add to the whole? One of our core values is inclusiveness and diversity. So in fact, we want to appreciate these differences. So should we make everybody jump through the same hoops? And that brings me to the third element, the where. What does our environment look like? Do we create safe and stimulating learning environments? And I believe that that's also where this marketization has become problematic, because we are more and more resembling a company, serving customers and selling output. And I believe this is starting to get far removed from the close academic community of staff and students we actually want to be. Is it off?
Yes.
Oh. Can you help me? They're still good people. Yeah, so if we go through these three elements of our culture and we start this self-reflection as an organization, then we can actually reconnect with our core, with what we actually stand for. And we can use our existing structures and expertise to do so. And we're all represented in decision-making boards and committees, so let's make the time we invest in that count. And the beauty here is that if we do so, if we get rid of some of these elements of marketization, like this extreme time-money pressure, we will recreate this room for experimentation, mistakes, and personal development. And we will become a breeding ground of innovation and new ideas on how to treat this culture of stress. And we can turn this downward spiral into an upward one. Because the thing is, when people feel confident and relaxed, and when we as a community become more mindful and relaxed, we will also get better output. So if we make new connections, we can also come up with new and exciting answers together, which in the end will be economically beneficial as well. Because the whole is more than the sum of its parts. So let's join forces by using what we already have to create this healthy and sustainable university culture. Let's connect the dots. But before getting there, I'm actually going to take my own advice, and I'm going to take a holiday of 3 weeks to relax. But when I get back, I want to connect with anyone who feels inspired by this idea. And please, don't be afraid to start without me. Thank you.